Mr. Speaker, but I was coming to what President Mahama intends to do to make savings that can be channeled into other areas of expenditure. Mr. Speaker, President Mahama made it clear during the campaign, and indeed, Ghanaians had urged upon the political class the need to reduce the size of government. So President Mahama stated boldly that in the event that he was elected, he will work with 60 ministers.
I was a year of Felix of Osuka Jaba Monte, as a man for Shasi say the new president and the president-elect John Dramani Mahama on chair, Ewe Kunyane so. Say, Okaso the 60 ministers, a year, Juma, Nemono, while Fakwain be so, appointees be brave. Said the amount who said ministers, anyway, you warm. You're Felix of Osuka Chaba Monte, Abbey San Seminano. Aha, I always Anochi TV subscribe for my many following on all social media platforms, baby. I always Anochi TV. I was just over Kaya, a idea, Ghana man penny that another Danko Kufuado, or the ministers be brave, Juma, appointees over 300 a year, Juma. And until now, the amount for sure. A year, new president, John Dramani Mahama, and say Oba ministers onto so. Now, Oshebo say Oba or the 60 ministers per ena ebeye ejuma. Now, no, and there's a amount for Ashasi Kasam. So, share appointment, a hodua, air consonancy, Ubeko, yes, National Film Authority, ye, a ye, Mammy Kafri Danku, ye, KO Demo, just say ye, amount for me appointment. Then, amount for you, say, a strategy and a John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, you see, because when himself wants to me, ministers be brave. Sadia, o ye appointees be brave. And no, and a minister at my state and a government communications. Yera Felix, Kwachi, Ofuso, Anasa Felix, Ofuso Kwachi, and Ababeto Monte, our parliament house, he chose said, Debbie. Or trade a year John Dramani Mahama ba obey, Anasa Wabano, or Babe, or Babe Cherena dream. Or 60 ministers no castle the Baye Jumano, and one or the Baye Juma, and Yadi Obesesano. Sanso, and appointees you cry away Yimpono, and Yadi Omunsu 60. In the amount for Shasi Casabi or more Kenyan, or catch your Mose, Yera John Dramani Mahamadi or Cow, ye, into the 60 ministers, ne pepe, and a Baye Ejuman. There no crano, on him say a Baye Sam, a Beboa NPP are buying them on mobile. Almost the 50 ministers, Babe Ye Juma. Now, catch you, Mr. Yadi NPP are buying over 337 appointees, and a chest of Omuyi, Naimpo, so current number appointees, appointment time. Yera John Dramani Mahama, and Yadia Idru 60. Into your Munja is Akasa no more Casanesan say, Mampenda, Mampeni, that's is your no Mampeni, John Dramani Mahama Baby. Just or the 60 ministers no and a Beye Juma into Bianca and to me video number here.
Mr. Speaker, but I was coming to what President Mahama intends to do to make savings that can be channeled into other areas of expenditure. Mr. Speaker, President Mahama made it clear during the campaign, and indeed, Ghanaians had urged upon the political class the need to reduce the size of government. So President Mahama stated boldly that in the event that he was elected, he will work with 60 ministers. This compelled our colleagues on the other side to immediately promise to work with 50 ministers. Mr. Speaker, these are the same people who defended to the hilt the appointment of 125 ministers. Mr. Speaker, it would interest you to note that the worst economic outcomes that this country has seen emanated from their performance between 2017 and 2020. After that point, all they did was to try to patch up for the wrongs of 2020. That terrible economic performance was brought about by the biggest government in our history of 125 ministers. That means that you don't need a legion of ministers to be able to manage the country properly. Now, Mr. Speaker, I use myself as an example of the savings that are going to be made by having a reduced government. My colleague on the other side, and my friend, Honorable Oponkuma, who, by the way, is my constituent also, used to head a ministry called the Ministry of Information. Mr. Speaker, that ministry had 76 people working there to manage government information. Mr. Speaker, as I speak to you, it is myself, a deputy, and 5 other people who now manage government information. Mr. Speaker, if you move from 123, 125 ministers to 60 ministers, Mr. Speaker, that means that you are going to buy 16 less Land Cruisers. You are going to buy 16 less saloon cars. You will need to provide 16 less bungalows. You will need to provide 16 less sets of political aides, executive assistants, and what have you. Now, Mr. Speaker, President Mahama has not limited himself to just reducing the numbers of ministers. In any event, as I speak to you, there are only 56 ministers. And in fact, there are 42 ministers running Ghana as we speak because deputy ministers have not been approved. 4 nominees have not been made to make up for the 60. But if you come to the presidential staff, Mr. Speaker, if you take out the civil servants under the office of the president, under the Akufo-Addo administration, there were 337 political appointees under President Akufo-Addo. As I speak to you, Mr. Speaker, there are 26 presidential staffers, people that you can classify as presidential staffers, and then 4 directors. As I speak to you, if you put together the total number of people who work at the presidency where I operate from, they will not amount to 60, Mr. Speaker. Yet they had 337 political appointees.
Abuzaya was Anoti TV, Era Felix of Osuka channel so Nanu Disem at 2 Jan. Meaning the ordering someone penny by 60 ministers, appointees knowing their strategy. Said the other back here, Pana, and I said, for I didn't share bra. Subscribe, follow, and on all social media platforms. Always Anoti TV, my crowd.